I want to introduce Melanie, because Melanie is actually Dutch. She's living in Amsterdam, and she just opened her recent show. You studied at the Rietveld Academy, right? She just opened her big solo show at the Foam. It's a museum of photography in Amsterdam, a good show where she's displaying 3 movies of hers. It's a trilogy, right? And some other works, but beside that, her work is a lot about community. It has always its power in a kind of really working a lot of people together, and it's not staged. It's really kind of community feeling that you work with these people and you don't cast them, they are part of your community. Mm-hmm. And well, now today she will talk about one of her recent projects, which is how do I pronounce this one? Is it how do you say?
It's a symbol.
It's just a symbol. Okay, so the non-human persons, and it's actually a publication. You can take a look into it later, maybe. But today it's going to be a lecture or lecture formative, or however you want to name it. And I think it's quite interesting because we had a lot about the seduction of horror somehow, and maybe to give someone a credit who is also not here is Sebastian Borach, who went together with us through the workshops. And he, for instance, made a lecture for us about horror movies in relation to homeland movies. So this little switch which happens when a homeland movie or homeland is becoming a horror. So you know these movies where he even showed us movies from 43, I guess, was it? About this kind of really Nazi homeland movies, where, for instance, one woman just went for a city and coming from a rural side, went for a big city, Prague, and she came back, and everything which was happy and great before suddenly turned itself against her. So the thing became something of integration to disintegration, which was also kind of influential for our discussion. And Melanie's performance, as you will see, I don't want to explain it beforehand, but it's a lot about the nice things and animals and their cuteness. And we will witness now a lot of images you selected over plenty of years out of the internet. And I think this little switch might bring us maybe forward in case of not the seduction of horror, but the seduction of cuteness. So. Thank you.
Thank you.
Alright, so here we are in front of the elephants. The cool thing about these guys is that they have really, really, really long trunks, and that's cool. And that's pretty much all there is to say.
This is the first video ever uploaded on YouTube in 2005. And I'm choosing this video to point out that the relationships between technology, animals and images is closely interwoven and never has been more close than nowadays since the popularization of the internet at home. So one of my basic questions to this publication was, if we send the internet's funny animal pictures into space for aliens to discover the Earth ecosystem, what would they learn? And before the popularization of the internet, I can let this go around. Oh wait, yeah, I'm going to put it also on. Before the popularization of the internet, only so recent 10 years ago, our main leaders in nature education films were institutions like National Geographic, Documentary Channel, the BBC. These wildlife documentaries informed us through the lens of biology and science about nature. 100 years after the first wildlife film appeared, the last days of the genre have started in a world where no wilderness really has been left untamed. And never was technology and nature, traditionally seen as opposed, so merged as now, or even have traded places, as we see that animals, the more representation animals have online, the more likely they are disappearing in their natural habitats in the wild. The lives of non-human animals and online representation is closely interwoven, and that is why the symbol of the animal has drastically changed over the past couple of years. We make more pictures every day, today, than in the last 100 years together. What these pictures really tell us about the human impact on our planet can hardly be underestimated. Rapid decrease of biodiversity, extinction, exhaustion of soil, the unimaginable accumulation of waste, global warming, exponential growth of air pollution, and so on. We were here, echoes all over these images, and that especially counts for all the animals on the bridge of extinction. But simultaneously, the representation of non-human animals has increased by an enormous extent and keeps expanding every day. So the publication follows the evolution of amateur wildlife photographs over the last 10 years. And as many know, the National Geographic has been coming into our lives in 1888 as an international symbol of wildlife representation, with high quality photos, iconic white-yellow border, educating people all over the world about nature according to the norms of science, seen through the lens of Western biology. We have seen animals mating, playing, sleeping, hunting, grazing, rearing children. The wildlife photographer was characterized by its patience and commitment to her or his subject, to catch that one glimpse that would all leave us in awe about the distance, greatness of nature. National Geographic wants to educate people through enchantment with a particular political view, which has now become outdated. Over the past 10 years, since the popularization of the internet at home, I have been collecting these images of animals online. That, to me, represents a whole different new world. Let's keep looking. The shifting dialogue around nature and wild representation that thus far has not been addressed by institutions as National Geographic. This publication is based on reinventing the structure that is based on the rules of science and early types of anthropology, and how they categorize cultures and species according to a species model that doesn't reflect on itself, and it's very limited, by reinventing new categories such as: how much should mothers and their babies get paid by zoos? Should putting a non-human on display for human enjoyment be a human right? Should they get paid? Can a polar bear develop a love for a bucket? And can this be described as a new non-human emotion? And should they get paid? So if we see polar bears and buckets, there's a whole list of videos to choose from. Is any of you familiar with this? So what we see is that zoos have policies that really want to encourage animals to mate, even if there's an overpopulation of a certain species in captivity, because it brings in money. And it's an economic thing. And it does not have anything to do with nature education or preservation itself, because often there's an abundance of wildlife, such as chimpanzees, in captivity, while in the wild their natural habitats are rapidly declining. And also what I want to say about a lot of these images that you see of cute animals online are often infants, you know, like this one. And that really stimulates people to buy them for their house, and there's a huge trend in like new economies such as the Middle East to have giant private zoos, something that people in the United States, for example, have been through, and after their after the Second World War and the rise of the neoliberalism, when lots of money came in, wildlife has always been seen as a kind of status. And this you also see in the publication by tourist pictures, like the people with money are allowed to visit the places where the exotic animals still exist. But what happens to them when they grow up? Does Bubbles miss Michael Jackson? Bubbles was the very famous chimpanzee of Michael Jackson. Is that a familiar fact among these? Just testing your level. Yeah? Do we have one? I should just make it into a quiz instead of a lecture. Okay. Well, does Bubbles miss Michael Jackson? Let's see.
I don't want to make this sound silly, but I also wonder, because we see the way chimps are so human-like, does this chimp, Bubbles, does it recognize that Michael Jackson is dead?
We have not discussed it with him because Michael has not been here to see Bubbles. It's been many years since he's seen Bubbles, and he's very connected and happy in his chimpanzee family right now.
Michael Jackson's menagerie also included dozens of other animals, including giraffes. They now live on a preserve on the edge of the Grand Canyon. Dr. Marty Dennis was Jackson's veterinarian.
He had just a very pure concern for every animal on that property.
But Bubbles had a special place in Jackson's heart. He was a one-time actor. And for Michael Jackson, a one-time best friend. For today, Kerry Sanders, NBC News, Wauchula, Florida.
This is the famous chimp that was also cast into a statue with Michael Jackson by Jeff Koons. You know, it went all over the media, and then when they grow up, they become intolerant, and they are like the strength of 5 men into the child of a 3-year-old body. And I know this personally because I worked at a chimpanzee sanctuary for quite a long time, and it was frightening and terrifying in the beginning, until I learned that you could actually have a basic conversation with them, which was again amazing. But also what you see in this is like, there's lots of Disney films popularizing like parrots and all kinds of exotic animals, and then the sanctuary, which also had other animals, would flow in with all these exotics, like being trafficked through, like, you can see this also in the publication, how animals are trafficked through illegal traffic to like Western countries to be having a failing career as a pet. And one of the stars of failing pets is Slow Loris. This is one of the examples how a viral video on the internet can actually cause extinction. Because here we see a very cute little animal, but the reality of this video is pure horror, which is hard to imagine if you see this. It's true. But to destroy your fun, what's really happening here is that these are nocturnal animals, which are very timid and have teeth that are poisonous for humans to bite. They're primates and they live in Southeast Asia. And they only move very slow by night and are very solitary. And actually, what happens is that bright light blinds them and they freeze. And what happens to these ones after everybody saw this video? Everybody wants to have slow loras in the house. So now being sold on many illegal markets for a price of 5,000 euros, the pet is almost extinct. And that's not the only thing, because before they arrive to their new owners, most of them already die by trauma of being placed in markets and having to go into airplanes, which is all very disturbing stimulation for a nocturnal animal. Oh, I feel now this is really depressive, this lecture.
Oh, sorry.
This is really depressive, or is it just me?
If you want to give some tissues, maybe.
Yeah, okay, I should have kept them. Or the axe. Okay. But even though there's also an incredible amount of love and care in this publication, which you can see in many of the images and the efforts that people do in like making protheses or like going to intense expensive surgeries to save the animal's life, or to enormous extent of care. But what we can see as a conclusion anyways is that the animals are being in a painful process of being assimilated into human culture. This is a good representation of what is going on in the world when humans have been organizing and cleaning up pretty much the whole planet by now. In a way, it feels like a tragic caricature of the struggle many species are dealing with at this very moment. Meeting a wild animal is like seeing a celebrity. But where does it go from here if we continue to eliminate everything of no direct importance except to serve our human ends? The intimacy which you see in these pictures carries a taint of the forbidden, blurring the line between ourselves and other animals, threatens our sense of humanity and their sense of self-sovereignty within the very limited projection we have of them. And the reason of that is like that the concept of human uniqueness has been an organizing nucleus of the Western Euro-American culture and informs the basic rules of every day. Lots of things are happening in which is new to this history of humans and the history of animals. In the last 200 years, local landscapes have been disrupted and subdued to global landscapes. In order to use science as a tool on other life, bring species to foreign places, kill them in trophy hunts, and use them for all sorts of means, animals have been deprived from feelings. We like to look for the animal, for the human inside the animal, but we deny the inner self in animals. A good thing about the animal pictures of amateurs is that this notion becomes harder to deny, because the access to images on the internet trample down this awareness that only humans possess self-awareness, language, culture, land, customs, or desire for cigarettes. Values to survive as a species include a study of mind and emotions that serve both humans and animals. From birds, species like parrots, elephants, people, dolphins, chimpanzees, etc. all depend on relationship to survive, which is often denied by people. And especially if animals step outside of their role as assigned actors within our imagination of nature, which you can see. Can you actually see this? Which you can see in lots of conflicts between urban spaces and wildlife that is happening. But also lots of animals adapting to urbanization, and that's also not what we want as people in general. Our cultural emphasis on sight, for example, makes us forget that animals are born to live in a matrix of touch, smell, sound, and as in their bodies, interweaving with their environment in a much elaborate species-crossing arena than scientists have been telling us. What amateur images of nature teach us are exceptions on scientific rules, and these rules are much more expanded than we ever thought was possible. We observe humans and other animals share a common capacity to think, feel, and experience themselves and their lives. Although I'm not sure if that's happening so much here. I think one loves the other more than the other way around. I don't know, what do you think? What do you think? So, would this increase the dolphin's sex life or the other person's sex life? Because these are all from Tinder. Because if you go on Tinder, then you see that exotic wildlife is really a thing to pump up your libido. And that's not only the dolphin, and I think this might be even the same dolphin. Can you imagine? Flash. But there are also numerous tigers, all in the same locations in the world. But anyways, what you see is just in this book is like exceptions of science, and those are much more documented now because every idiot has a camera. So what is gonna be on this camera is, for example, things like this. So here you already see houses in the background, so it's already not in the wild, because all these videos are so manipulated. You need to be able to read them.
Here it is.
What you all thought was going to be a site of horror is completely the opposite. So what's really happening here? Who knows? Nobody knows really, how to read an image. It's so I think this is a pet lion who probably knows the deer, but it's put on the internet as a it's not gonna kill the thing. But it's being told as the mother has just lost her own cub and adopts a deer. It's like moving into the realm of Disney fantasies. Okay, that was my friend. So, one of my personal ew. I think one of the backlashes of science of not having included empathy or love in the discourse that they've been going on for many years now is backlashing now into its shadow. Don't you think so? Yeah, this is the shadow, because science never included love, so here it comes as a kind of a weird hybrid, yeah. Because you see, I don't know, okay, okay, so my real point, this is the real point, is that issues around animals and human-animal conflicts are not about the animals, but about humans' conflict revolving around questions of social justice and human introspective. My proposal through this publication is that animals who are taken out of their local habitat of whose natural landscapes has been too much invaded by humans are confronted with changes in their species and therefore having a bicultural identity, that of a human and of their own. So in a way, we all could like start to redefine the species, because when does a lion stop being a lion? You know, is a lion still a lion when it adopts a deer? Is a lion still a lion when it's in a zoo eating a giraffe that has been killed in front of its nose? Is a lion still a lion if it's dropped in a zoo and you can hug it and take photos of it? So that's a little bit the unanswerable question at this point, because we will only know in the future if they're only going to be like midget elephants that are going to be we pet in our garden, you know, which in a way wouldn't be so bad. Yeah, just another So I want to talk about the panda as a discourse. The panda is one of the animals that really fits into the moment of its time. Let me see where to start. So the attitudes that we have towards animals that are seen by how much they are influenced by media coverage, it means that getting positive media coverage can make the difference between life and death for animals at this moment in time. And the animal who is best at manipulating us by giving them positive feedback on the internet is the panda. And how far that goes is like I went on YouTube and typed in just panda to see what comes up.
Although one reason why you probably never heard of a crocodile panda is because they don't exist. These are real crocodiles, but they've been painted to look like pandas by zookeepers in Thailand. Now, why, you ask? Have zookeepers done this? Well, not too long ago, some real pandas were brought to Thailand zoos from China, and that's all anyone wanted to look at. So zookeepers wanted to remind visitors about their own homeboy crocodiles. They painted them to look like pandas, hoping to draw a little attention from the crowds over at the panda exhibit.
So pandas are used by China also as a huge economic and political tool. You know, you can rent a panda. If you make it like a big deal with China, you get some pandas. You know, they're really like there to mark the territory of China also. But so the giant panda is an endangered species, and there are only 1,600 living in the wild and 300 in captivity. And they're very smart in getting media attention by faking pregnancies to get treats. They even went so far as making panda porn. I don't know if you followed up on that story, because pandas forgot how to breed, so all their caretakers went to make panda porn for them, by the pandas, not by them. But they have music, they have air conditioning, and they have their caretakers dress up as giant pandas. I mean, how cool is that? So pandas really have used our weakness for their soft cuddle power. With their big black marks around their eyes, there have been studies done by Oxford of like why we all like pandas so much. Like, who doesn't like pandas? You don't like them?
No, not possible.
Not possible, no? What is it? Like, yeah. But the fact, if you think about animal preservation in relation to ecosystems, the panda is actually absolutely not a valid species to preserve, because it doesn't make any difference if there's a panda in the mountains of China or not. But what does matter is that the panda uses a large area, so by preserving the panda, the whole area is also preserved. You know how these things go. So, who wants to see the panda porn? Okay, let's watch a little bit of panda porn, so you know I'm not making it up.
That's right, turn down the lights and turn up the TV. It's time for panda porn.
So what they did is they slowed down the video because it actually only lasts 7 seconds, just to like kind of condition the panda that it's really happening. But they also are really good in like getting people to do the craziest things for them. Like build complete like toys and like I want to be a panda. So they're doing really well on the internet, and therefore also they're maybe going to make it as a species in real life or not. But animals also resist in what modern humanity wants to make from them: passive objects in zoos, circuses, safari rides, romantic decorations dotting the landscape for eager eyes peering from Land Rovers, or data to tantalize our mind. Invasions of their natural habitats often leads to problems. Simple asking space in the land of their birth and have some dignity of respect can lead to huge confrontations. And that just goes like they want to eat, or they go into human areas, or they don't keep on the path for the tourists, and then sometimes things go wrong, like here.
This is the moment a rampaging elephant flips a car carrying 2 tourists. The massive bull first crushed the front of the hatchback before rolling the car with astonishing ease. The terrifying attack was captured in South Africa's Kruger National Park 2 weeks ago, but has only just been released.
They're gonna die.
A female passenger had to be rushed to hospital with a gore wound to her upper thigh, but has since been discharged. According to a spokesman for the Kruger National Park, the male elephant was in a state of heightened sexual tension known as must, making it extremely aggressive. It has since been shot and killed.
Boom. That's what happens in the Kruger Park. But I think there are many hypotheses to be able to be brought forward. Like a lot of, for example, animals living in these parks are traumatized because the parks are controlled. So there's only like a certain amount of species that are able to live within the restricted area of very large national parks. But still. So the way to deal with overpopulation is that sometimes they erase half of a clan from elephants because they live in clans, and leaving the other half traumatized. So it's almost better for the species to just kill a whole clan than just kill a couple, because that will leave the others very traumatized because they live in such close groups. And what happens a lot that, or the animals are reared by humans and then put back in the wild, and they don't know how to behave, and they kind of get like psychotic. So there's a lot of violence happening because of mental illnesses or traumatized bodies. And it also is very hard to make a herbivore like an elephant violent. This is almost something that doesn't really happen unless it's like within the species of a territory. So you see that these animals are locked in and stressed out. Another thing that really stresses animals out and has a huge impact on how we perceive them. The drone. Like if you see in the publication, drones are overly used in wildlife documentation by amateurs and professionals and scientists. But scientific use has proven that it's highly stressful for the animals to have these objects. I mean, it's stressful for me if there's a drone around. So what it does is actually it infiltrates with their sleeping patterns, with their breathing patterns, and causes them to have a lower immune system and higher heart rates when surrounded by the drones. But although I think this one has fun. What the fuck, I'm gonna get this motherfucker. Yeah, this one is really good too. He's really going for it. Yeah, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. And then, what the fuck? Little back. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Down. And then the cameraman tries to get his gadget back, but that's not so easy. Because now it's really happening. But, okay, we kind of get the point. On the other end of the spectrum, there's this happening. I find footage of this from, I think, in Hindu. So this is a very famous private zoo in Argentina that is packed by people who can hug, feed, and take selfies with tigers and lions. But the reality, what is really happening here is that they are all drugged, which is a very common thing in zoos anyway. So like, how natural can the zoo be in that sense? Because antipsychotics, Valium, Prozacs are on the daily menu. And also you can see just, the standards of like how zoos can be attracted, keep staying attractive for people, keep on being higher and higher, because people don't want to see just an animal staring at them like segregated by a gate. They want to get closer and closer. So in the end, probably the boundaries are going to disappear, but with the disappearance of boundaries, there's also the agency and the innate behavior of the species that will will disappear. Drones are even put on animals' heads, not just once. So the animal is caged because we love it. With impotent instincts, it stares at us, posing its body a lifelong for our entertainment. So we are still able to experience a slight form of our connection through separation. They seem restricted to private conceptual worlds, a sentimental fascination of surfaces, where humans, as an exiled spirit, controlling this world, not being part of it, and having its roots in another. The object of interest in this publication is not just the animal or environment, but the dialectical space in between, which turns out to be the site of drama, seen through funny images, which often give us a sigh of relief, making the destruction of the earth less gruesome. By believing they look at the world, that we have an insight in the world through other species' views. Animals are like people because people are like animals. But what do these pictures tell us about humanity? Humans appreciating a likeness and denying a likeness when it becomes inappropriate for them. A grotesque funhouse mirror of the current scientific model is what animals represent online. But they are the group to which we belong. We are a small minority of them. It seems reasonable to suggest that we ought to take them serious and give them a right to agency, selfhood, and validity. Or, in the nearby future, all wildlife will be transformed to cattle, which it probably already is.